Today we talk with Helen Carter, who has developed her passion in sustainable procurement and has recently expanded her expertise to become AS's Centre of Knowledge in the fight to combat modern slavery, developing numerous tools designed to help organisations and their supply chains meet and or exceed the requirements of the Modern Slavery Act 2015.
Hi, my name is Helen Carter. I work for Action Sustainability, a small sustainable procurement consultancy. I am procurement by trade, have been since I left university a very long time ago, and I specialise recently, probably the last 7 to 8 years, on modern slavery and human rights within supply chains.
Can you explain what modern slavery means in the context of facilities management and the built environment?
Modern slavery is a form of exploitation, but it's the most extreme spectrum of exploitation that you will see. It's where individuals are forced to work for the profit of others, and that forcing comes in various forms. It's through abuse, through document control, through debt bondage. The key to this part of exploitation, as opposed to other types of labour exploitation, is that lack of freedom and that controlling mechanism that the controllers have to ensure that their victims continue working for them. It's a particularly abhorrent crime. It's so prolific than you think. So globally, there are 40.3 million victims of modern slavery, and this covers a range of crimes: sexual exploitation, domestic servitude, organ harvesting, forced marriage, and forced labour. And interestingly, people's perception tends to be around modern slavery that actually the main problem is sexual exploitation. But if you look at that 40.3 million, 68% of it is in forced labour, which means that it's in supply chains, big and small supply chains all over the world, producing goods and services. And if we bring that to FM supply chains, we can see it in a large number of them, whether it's cleaning, whether it's catering, whether it's waste management, whether it's security. There are certain trades within facilities management, both soft and hard, that are deemed high risk. But it's not just trades, it's also products. So what I tend to call indirect, where you don't necessarily have that one-to-one relationship, but it's buried in food products, in uniforms, in solar panels, in batteries, a large proportion of products that we purchase within the sort of FM and built environment supply chain as well.
What are some of the specific challenges around tackling modern slavery within the FM supply chain?
I'd sort of split this into two. There's a number of areas that the sector and in organisations within the sector can address. So I think the first thing is collaboration. We've seen it in things like the Supply Chain Sustainability School, where we've had partners of our school working together across construction sectors. So that's FM, infrastructure, homes, all working together to actually understand how to address these issues, identify the risks, raise awareness, educate the supply chain. And that collective provides that consistency of message, and also means that resources are available to people up and down the supply chain easily and freely, to enable them to really start to understand how to address it. But it's not just the school. If you look at the utility sector, they've undertaken a really good initiative where utility sector clients have come together to address the issues, and start to understand again what they can do to educate the supply chain, identify the risks. So collaboration is really, really key within the sector, but also actually collaboration up and down the value chain within organisations is key. So if you're an FM company, you need to be educating yourself, you need to be educating your clients, you also need to be working with your supply chain to really understand how to address modern slavery issues. So it's interesting, the collaboration bit is so fundamentally important. Prioritising is really important. Addressing the risks are really important. The UN Guiding Principles on Businesses and Human Rights actually advocates a risk-based approach. So understanding where your risk sits means as an organisation you have a better opportunity to try and deal with the potential risk of modern slavery and exploitation existing at both the direct level and the indirect level. And what that allows you to do is prioritise your resources and really start to understand where you can address it, rather than going arbitrarily, which a lot of organisations do, with simple questions like, have you got a policy? So addressing the risks where they sit is really, really important. I think the other bit of advice I'd give is time. You need to really start to make sure that you've got a good impact plan, that you are putting in activities that really address the issues going forward. So, understanding your procurement processes, understanding where you need to get closer to a supply chain is really important. So I've already mentioned in FM, uniforms, waste management, security, cleaning, catering, both the provision of the service and the products contained within it, identifying those risks and then putting a plan in place over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years to address those is really important. And I think finally understanding that you aren't going to ever be able to stand up and say you have zero slavery in your supply chains. And that's not what a lot of legislation and NGOs want you to do. What they want you to do is make a real concerted effort to identify the risks, address it, and really make sure that remedy is in place for victims where you find them.
You advise organisations not to view modern slavery in isolation. How does modern slavery link to other business issues?
As I mentioned at the beginning, modern slavery is the most extreme of a spectrum of exploitation. Within FM, within the built environment, we have challenges around other areas of exploitation. We have issues around equality and diversity. We have issues around bullying. We have issues around employment conditions, right to work. A lot of interconnected issues with modern slavery, but are not the softer side, but probably the entry-level exploitation that can exist. This provides a number of challenges for us as industry. So as an organisation, you've got I should imagine that at the moment you're experiencing what everyone else is doing, which is we have very little access to labour. We are not seen as industries that are particularly good to work in, particularly interesting to work in, particularly well paid. Lots of perception around bullying and lack of investment. So we have a labour issue that we need to address. So addressing some of these exploitation issues has a double benefit. One, by addressing both the sort of entry-level exploitation, if you like, or the beginning of it, and allows us to sort of close the loops according to that sort of more extreme element of modern slavery. But also what it does is it makes the industry more attractive. It makes our industry one that people want to work in. So addressing modern slavery in isolation as a compliance issue, it means you're sort of pushing water up a hill. You'll always be trying to deal with compliance issues. Looking at it as part of a bigger issue of how you treat your people and extending that how you treat your people to the supply chain means that you've got the opportunity to identify those risks and address them where possible. So modern slavery should never really be seen as a compliance issue. It should be seen as the right thing to do, but also part of a bigger strategy of how you manage your people going forward.
Where can businesses look to learn more and make improvements?
There is a wealth of information out there. If you go into the Supply Chain Sustainability School, I'll promote that because that's what we do. We created a suite of materials, all free. I think I worked out that since I've been looking at this sort of 7 or 8 years ago, I've trained over 3,500 people through a variety of different ways, through workshops and supplier days and a variety of issues. So e-learning modules, guidance documents on how to embed it in procurement. There's a huge range of things that you can get access to, and they're all free. But that will only take you so far. You need to also think about improving your procurement processes. You need to think about your recruitment processes. You need to think about how you work with your supply chain on sites in areas where facilities management services are being provided, whether it's hard FM or soft FM. So making improvements is really important, and some of it will mean a bit of investment. maybe going and finding people who can actually help you go through those processes of what does good due diligence look like. Launching later on this year, there's a new BSI standard on what due diligence looks like, BS 25700, which will give you a place to start. But you are going to need to invest a bit of time to really understand where those risks sit and allocate some resource to it. This isn't something that you can just look at a tick box exercise and that's it, it's done. You need to make sure that you've got awareness throughout your organisation, both from the legal, the recruitment, the procurement perspective. It's a business issue. It is not just a procurement issue that you need to be addressing.